On the day Evan Hale got married, the sky was clear and bright, but his heart felt strangely quiet. People smiled, clapped, and whispered about how lucky he was. A gentle Omega marrying Noah Sterling, one of the richest and most respected alphas in the city, it sounded like a dream. Evan stood in white, calm and polite, returning smiles as if everything inside him was steady. Only he knew the truth. This wedding was not the beginning of a great love. It was the end of one. 5 years earlier, Evan had loved someone else. Lucas Gray had been loud where Evan was soft, brave where Evan was careful. They had dreamed together in small rooms, sharing hopes that felt bigger than the world. Lucas had promised to never let go. Then one cold morning he did exactly that. No long goodbye. No clear reason. Just distance, silence, and a note that said it was better this way. That was the day Evan learned how quiet heartbreak could be. Now, standing beside Noah, Evan told himself this marriage was different. Noah did not shout promises or swear forever with dramatic words. He offered safety. He offered peace. When Evan's world had fallen apart, Noah had reached out a steady hand and said, "You don't have to face life alone." So Evan said yes. As vows were spoken, Evan felt a strange ache, like a door closing somewhere deep inside him. He did not look back. He did not search the crowd. He believed Lucas was gone from his life forever. But across the street, hidden among strangers, Lucas Gray watched the ceremony in silence. 5 years had changed him. His shoulders were broader, his eyes sharper, his name powerful. Yet none of that mattered as he watched Evan smile softly at another alpha. Regret pressed heavy on Lucas's chest. The lies that had pushed him away. The fear that had made him run. All of it felt pointless now. Evan belonged to someone else. When the ceremony ended, Noah gently took Evan's hand. It was not possessive. It was careful, almost respectful. Evan felt that and breathed out slowly. Maybe this quiet life would heal him. Maybe love did not always have to hurt. As the couple stepped forward into their new future, Evan did not know that the past had already begun to move again. Slowly, patiently, and with plans of its own. 5 years passed quietly, like pages turning without sound. Evan Hale learned how to live inside the calm he had chosen. He woke early each morning, helped manage the community center funded by the Sterling family, and spent his days listening to people who needed comfort. Children trusted him. Elders smiled when he walked by. Evan had become someone others leaned on even though long ago he had once needed that same support. His marriage to Noah Sterling was peaceful. Noah never raised his voice. He never made demands. He treated Evan with care, like something precious that could be hurt if handled wrongly. They shared meals, shared plans, and shared responsibilities. To the world they looked perfect. A rich alpha and a kind Omega building a stable life together. But at night, when the house was quiet, Evan sometimes felt empty. It was not sadness the way it used to be. It was softer now. Like an old scar that no longer bled but still reminded him of pain. Evan did his best not to think of Lucas. He believed time had erased those memories. Still, certain things, laughter in the street, a familiar voice, a half-forgotten song, would make his chest feel tight for reasons he could not explain. Far away, Lucas Gray lived a very different life. Power surrounded him. People feared his name and respected his strength. He had climbed high, becoming an alpha others followed without question. Yet his success felt hollow. Every achievement reminded him of what he had lost. Evan's face haunted his quiet moments. The smile Lucas had once protected now belonged to someone else. Lucas told himself Evan was better off without him. That lie was the only thing that let him sleep. One evening, Noah watched Evan carefully as they sat together after dinner. Evan was smiling, but Noah noticed how his eyes drifted, how his thoughts wandered. Noah understood more than he said. He knew Evan's heart had been broken before him, and healing did not follow a straight path. Still Noah stayed. He believed love could grow slowly like a tree, even in soil touched by old storms. Neither Evan nor Lucas knew it yet, but the silence between them was nearing its end. The city was changing. Paths that had once separated were slowly bending back toward each other. And when they met again, the calm they had built would be tested in ways none of them expected. Evan did not expect the past to find him on an ordinary afternoon. The city hall was busy that day, filled with people attending a charity meeting. Evan moved calmly through the crowd, holding his notes, focused on his work. He had learned to stay present, to keep his mind on what was in front of him. The past, he believed, had no place in his careful life anymore. Then he heard his name. Evan? The voice was deeper than he remembered, steadier, but the sound of it made his steps slow. Evan turned before he could stop himself. Standing only a few feet away was Lucas Gray. For a moment the world seemed to pause. Lucas looked different, taller, sharper, dressed like someone important. But his eyes were the same. They carried surprise, regret, and something like hope. Evan felt his heart beat faster, but he did not step back. Instead he stood still, breathing evenly, refusing to let old feelings take control. "Hello, Lucas," Evan said politely. The calm in Evan's voice shocked Lucas more than anger would have. He had prepared himself for blame, for cold words, even for being ignored. He had not prepared for kindness. It made his chest ache. They spoke briefly, carefully, like strangers who shared a secret history. Lucas congratulated Evan on his work. Evan thanked him and asked how he had been. Their words were simple, but everything unsaid hung heavy between them. Lucas watched Evan walk away, his steps confident, his shoulders relaxed. Evan looked happy. That realization hurt more than anything Lucas had imagined. He had wanted to return stronger, ready to fix everything. Instead he found Evan already healed, at least on the outside. That evening, Evan returned home later than usual. No one noticed right away. Evan tried to act normal, but his thoughts were loud, filled with memories he thought were long gone. Noah did not push. He only listened as Evan quietly said, "I saw Lucas today." Noah nodded, his expression steady. He had known this moment would come someday. What mattered now was not jealousy but trust. Elsewhere in the city, Lucas stood alone in his office, staring out at the lights below. Meeting Evan again had stirred feelings he had buried for years. He realized the past was not finished with him yet. And neither was Evan. Lucas did not sleep that night. Evan's calm voice and steady eyes stayed with him, repeating over and over in his mind. 5 years ago, Evan had cried when Lucas walked away. Now Evan had not cried at all. That truth hurt more than anger ever could. It meant Evan had learned how to live without him. The next day Lucas made a choice he had avoided for years. He asked to see Evan again. Evan agreed, not because he missed Lucas, but because he wanted answers he never received. They met in a quiet park, far from crowds and noise. It was the same place where they had once shared dreams of the future. Now it felt smaller, touched by time. Lucas spoke first. He admitted his mistakes without trying to defend himself. He explained how people close to him had lied, telling him Evan would be hurt if he stayed, that loving an Omega like Evan would destroy everything he had worked for. Lucas had been young, proud, and afraid. Instead of trusting Evan, he ran. Evan listened quietly. When Lucas finished, he waited for forgiveness. What he received instead was honesty. "You left when I needed you most," Evan said softly. "I waited for you to come back. You never did." Lucas had no answer for that. Evan explained how long it took to stop blaming himself, how he learned to stand on his own, and how Noah had helped him rebuild his life piece by piece. There was no anger in his voice, only truth. Lucas realized too late that apologies could not erase time. "I'm not the same person you left," Evan said. "And I won't go back to who I was." Lucas lowered his head. For the first time, he understood that loving someone also meant respecting their healing. Wanting Evan back was easy. Accepting Evan's strength was much harder. When Evan returned home, Noah noticed the quiet change in him. Evan was thoughtful but not shaken. He told Noah everything. Noah listened without interrupting, then said something simple. "You don't owe your past your future." Those words stayed with Evan. Lucas walked away from the park knowing he had lost Evan once through fear, and might lose him again through regret. But deep inside he made a promise. If there was even a small chance to make things right, he would not run this time. That evening, rain tapped softly against the windows as Evan sat at the dining table, staring at nothing in particular. His meeting with Lucas had opened old memories, but it had not broken him. Still, his heart felt tired, like it had carried too much for too long. No one noticed. He poured 2 cups of tea and sat across from Evan without asking questions right away. Noah believed some truths came easier when given time. Evan wrapped his hands around the warm cup and finally spoke. "He says he was tricked," Evan said quietly. "He says he was afraid." Noah nodded slowly. "Fear makes people leave," he replied. "But it also shows who is willing to stay." Those words settled between them. Noah had never pretended to be perfect. From the start, he had been honest about why he married Evan. At first, it was to protect him, from people who saw Omegas as weak, from a world that had already hurt him. But over time, something deeper had grown. Noah admired Evan's kindness, his strength, and the way he cared for others without expecting anything back. "I didn't marry you to replace anyone," Noah said gently. "I married you so you wouldn't be alone." Evan looked at him, then really looked at him. For the first time he saw how steady Noah had always been. Noah had never left, never doubted, never disappeared when things became difficult. While Evan had been busy surviving, Noah had been quietly choosing him every day. That realization made Evan's chest ache in a new way. Meanwhile, Lucas watched from the outside as rumors spread about Evan's work and Noah's support. He saw how closely they stood together, how easily they moved as a pair. Jealousy rose, sharp and painful. But beneath it was something heavier, respect. Noah was not the enemy Lucas had imagined. He was the man who had protected what Lucas had once abandoned. Evan went to bed that night feeling confused but safe. He did not know what the future would hold, but he knew one thing clearly. Noah was still there. And sometimes, the person who stays quietly becomes more important than the one who returns loudly. Evan did not go looking for the truth. It found him on its own. One afternoon, while sorting old files at the community center, Evan came across a familiar name. It belonged to someone who had once worked closely with Lucas years ago. The memory stirred something uneasy inside him. Curious, Evan asked a few careful questions. What he uncovered made his hands tremble. The lies from the past had been planned. Years ago, several people had wanted control over Lucas's growing power. They believed Evan, a gentle Omega, made Lucas seem weak. So they fed Lucas false stories, telling him Evan would suffer if he stayed, that Evan was being targeted, that leaving was the only way to protect him. At the same time, they told Evan that Lucas had chosen ambition over love. Both had been pushed apart on purpose. When Evan finally understood the full truth, his first feeling was not anger. It was sadness. So much pain had grown from something that could have been stopped by honesty. For a moment, old tears threatened to return, but Evan held them back. He was no longer the Omega who waited helplessly. That evening, Evan told Noah everything. Noah listened carefully, his jaw tight, his eyes focused. He was angry but not reckless. He reminded Evan that knowing the truth did not mean going backward. It meant choosing how to move forward with strength. Lucas learned the truth soon after, and it crushed him. The people he once trusted had destroyed the one thing that truly mattered. Guilt weighed heavy on his chest. This time, Lucas did not look for excuses. He accepted responsibility for believing lies instead of trusting Evan. Evan stood at a crossroads. He could stay silent and protect his peace, or he could bring the truth into the open. Evan chose the harder path. Not for revenge filled with anger, but for justice that would end the lies forever. For the first time, Evan planned not to run from pain, but to face it calmly. And that decision would change everything. Evan did not shout. He did not threaten. He did not rush. Instead, he moved carefully, the way someone does when they know their steps matter. The truth he had learned sat heavy in his heart, but Evan refused to let anger guide him. He remembered the years he had spent hurting in silence. He would not allow lies to control his future again. If revenge was coming, it would be calm, clean, and impossible to deny. Evan began by speaking to people he trusted, leaders, sponsors, and elders who respected honesty. He showed them records, old messages, and proof that had been hidden for years. He did not twist the story or add drama. He simply shared facts and let others see the damage those lies had caused. The reaction was quiet but powerful. One by one, the people who had betrayed Lucas and destroyed Evan's past began to lose their influence. Invitations stopped coming. Deals were canceled. Their words no longer carried weight. No one shouted their names in anger. They were simply ignored, and that hurt more than punishment. Lucas watched it happen and understood. This was Evan's strength. Lucas finally came forward as well, admitting his mistake publicly. He took responsibility for leaving without trust. That honesty shocked many people. For the first time, Lucas did not act like a proud alpha. He acted like someone ready to accept the truth, no matter how painful. Evan listened from a distance. He felt no joy watching others fall, but he felt lighter knowing the lies were gone. The past no longer had power over him. His revenge was not about hurting anyone, it was about ending the story that had once hurt him. At home, Noah saw the change in Evan. His shoulders were relaxed. His voice was steady. The weight he had carried for years was finally lifting. Noah said nothing, only offering quiet support, proud of the Omega who had grown so strong. Evan realized something important that night. Healing did not mean forgetting. Revenge did not mean cruelty. Strength did not mean being loud. As the truth settled across the city, Evan knew the hardest choice was still ahead, one that would decide his future, not his past. The city grew quiet after the truth came out, but inside Evan's heart, everything felt louder than ever. Lucas asked to see Evan one last time, not to beg but to be honest. Evan agreed. No one knew about the meeting. He did not argue or try to stop it. Instead he said something that surprised Evan. "Whatever you choose," Noah said calmly, "make sure it's because it brings you peace." They met in a quiet room at the community center. Lucas stood straight, but his hands were tight at his sides. He looked at Evan the way someone looks at something precious they once lost. "I don't want to own your future," Lucas said. "I just want the chance to walk beside you again, if you allow it." There were no promises, no dramatic words, just truth. Later that evening, Evan sat with Noah. Noah spoke openly about his feelings for the first time. He admitted that he loved Evan, but he would not cage him with that love. If Evan needed to leave, Noah would step aside even if it hurt. Evan listened, his heart full. Two alphas stood before him in different ways. One represented a past filled with pain, growth, and lessons learned too late. The other represented a present built on patience, safety, and quiet care. For the first time in his life, Evan did not feel small between powerful people. He felt equal. Evan realized he was no longer choosing between two alphas. He was choosing how he wanted to be loved, through chaos or calm, through regret or trust. He asked for time. Both alphas agreed. That night, Evan stood alone by the window watching the city lights. He understood something important. No matter what he chose next, he would never again allow himself to be broken by fear or lies. The choice would be his, and only his. Evan did not decide right away. Instead, he chose something he had never truly given himself before: time. For days he focused on simple things. He worked at the community center, laughed with children, and shared quiet meals at home. These moments reminded him that his life was not only about love or loss. It was about who he had become after the pain. Lucas kept his distance, respecting Evan's need for space. He no longer tried to prove himself with words. Instead, he showed change through actions, fixing what he could, admitting mistakes, and helping others without asking for praise. Each small step was a piece of the man he was becoming. Noah too stayed true to himself. He did not compete or demand reassurance. He continued to be steady, offering comfort when Evan needed it and silence when Evan needed to think. His patience became a safe place where Evan could rest his heart. One evening, Evan finally spoke. He told both alphas about the years of hurt he had carried, the nights he blamed himself, the fear of being left again, and the quiet strength it took to keep moving forward. He did not accuse. He did not hide. He shared his truth. Lucas apologized without excuses. Noah listened without interrupting. That moment changed everything. Evan felt the last tight knot inside his chest loosen. He understood that healing did not erase the past. It allowed him to stand taller because of it. He no longer needed to be saved. He was choosing connection, not dependence. For the first time, the pain that once defined his life felt smaller than his hope. As the night ended, Evan knew his heart was finally ready for peace, and the future was closer than he thought. The morning sun poured golden light through the curtains, but Evan felt something warmer inside him than sunlight. Today was different. Not because of a ceremony or a grand decision or even because Lucas or Noah waited for him, it was different because Evan finally felt whole. 5 years of heartache, silence, lies, and quiet growth had brought him here. He remembered Lucas, the love that once tore him apart, the regret that followed, and the lessons learned too late. He remembered Noah, the steady hands, the patience, the calm that had never wavered. And now he understood something crucial. He was no longer the Omega who needed saving. He was the Omega who could choose his own path. Both alphas waited in the room, each calm, each respectful, each offering Evan the chance to decide his future. Lucas's eyes held hope but not demand. Noah's eyes held trust, not control. And Evan realized the choice was not about who he loved more. It was about which kind of love he wanted to carry with him. One that healed and protected, not one that broke or frightened him. Evan took a deep breath. He spoke with a voice calm, steady, and full of confidence. "I've learned that love is not about possession or regrets. It's about respect, patience, and growth. And I want a future that brings me peace, not fear." Lucas nodded slowly, understanding without bitterness. "I will always care for you," he said. "No matter what you choose." Noah smiled softly. "And I will walk with you wherever you want to go." Evan stepped forward, taking both their hands, not in a triangle of rivalry but in a circle of trust. He realized that the past had shaped him, but it did not define him. The choices he made now were his alone. He chose a path of balance, honesty, and strength, a future where he could be loved and safe, where mistakes of the past would not shadow him anymore. The two alphas understood that true love was not about fighting for him, but about supporting him. And for the first time, Evan felt completely free. As the three of them stood together, the city outside continued its rhythm, unaware that a quiet story of betrayal, healing and patience had reached its peaceful end. Evan smiled, finally ready to step into a life of his own making, strong, loved and free from fear. If you followed Evan's journey, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications to join us for more heartfelt stories of love, healing and courage.